Welcome back to episode 7. This episode is going to be all over the place, but the goals have been in sight for a long time. So in this episode we're going to finally finish crafting the Necromech, do the new war, achieve our first kit gun, that being the Spore Lacer of course, and then continuously upgrade all of our builds through trading for the necessary mods that we're missing. I'll also introduce you to a spy mission run that can generate a lot of plat if you're very quick at finishing it. I know spy is one of the most hated game modes, but it is also one of the fastest game modes, since all you really have to do is just go from point A to B to C and then extract. But we'll talk about it more in depth when we get there. I'll be also diving into the more generic gameplay build that we have for Mag, that does most of the content in the game quite comfortably. Let's talk about operator schools. If you started with Zenric, as the community usually recommends, then you'll have the very useful Wellspring ability. You'll also want to grab the maximum energy and energy regeneration for your operator, and unlock them globally, of course, and then quickly exit that tree and go into the Madarite tree because you'll require Void Strike and the Amp maximum energy and energy regeneration. Additionally, within the Madarite tree, there is also the node Power Transfer and Chain Sling, which are really powerful and useful abilities that you should unlock after having unlocked Void Strike and Eternal Gaze and Inner Gaze. Other schools that you should consider with global unlockables would be Vazarin with their Enduring Tides and Rejuvenating Tides, and Unairu school with Last Grasp and Vengeance, which will allow you to come back after death. This is especially useful in endgame content, where you only have one life. So as said before, I highly recommend that you complete your Lauren amp instead of doing a Jutni amp the way I'm doing here. This is for the very simple reason that you will not even be able to guild your amp until you're rank 3. So you may as well build your amp and guild your amp within rank 3, rather than get the early amp and sacrifice some of the critical chance for that. Of course, I'm only really doing it for the sake of this series so that I can do the progression as fast as possible. I've noticed that I've yet to discuss how I'm modding my Mirage, so here's a very simple build. Mirage wants to focus on duration and power strength, so we're using narrow-minded since we don't care about range in this build. Then we'll max out our power strength as long as we can maintain the cost of the abilities, which is why you see me run a Streamline here. Or you can of course run Equilibrium, or you can run both Streamline and Equilibrium depending on how far you're pushing your Mirage. This is of course not a complete build guide, we're just making do with whatever mods we have. Once we do have a proper mod collection, I can make a follow-up short video on an actual build for this Mirage. So once again, for the sake of progression, it is much easier to farm the plat necessary in a lot of these cases and to purchase the item you need, rather than reaching the appropriate standing and grinding for days to actually max out the appropriate arcane. This is also the case for a lot of different mods in the game, especially when you're farming corrupted key mods and you're only getting the same mod over and over again. Make sure that you take advantage of the Warframe market and you're constantly trading your duplicate mods and other things, that you are able to trade for some plat and then exchanging them for things that you actually need. There is absolutely no need for you to stockpile your plat. For example, during the duration of the recordings for this video, which was about 3 days, I've gained about 100 plat a day and I've constantly traded it. On the final day, I only had about 7 plat left. But in turn, by the end of this video, we'll have vast majority of the mods that we require to progress the game. So the current operator loadout is Madurai School for Power Strike, and I'm focusing on upgrading the maximum energy of my amp. We're running a Schwalk amp with a Jutni brace instead of a Lauren brace, as I've already explained before. And I just purchased the Magus Elevate mod for infinite health for my Warframe. Health sustain, that is. Okay, so let's talk about this spy mission. You can either run a stealth frame, or you can simply run a mod for your Parazon called Untraceable. Untraceable puts you in a 15-second stealth after successfully hacking a console. Once you've learned the layout of this spy mission, the 15 seconds will be more than enough for you to get from console to console to have permanent stealth within the actual spy segments of the mission. And between the different nodes, you're just going to sprint as fast as possible just to get from point A to B, since all we care about is the total completion time. The mission is called Pago Spy on Kuva Fortress. And the reason why we want to run this mission is because the reward pool for the mods in this mission is quite low. So a lot of the mods here trade for anywhere between 10 to 20 plat. So if you're doing multiple runs within the hour, let's say you manage to do 10 to 20 runs in an hour, and each mod gives you 10 to 20 plat, you're making anywhere between 100 and the absolute best obviously being 400 in this case. Granted, of course, if you were to spam it back to back that much, you'd probably get tired of it, which is why I only recommend that you do it every now and then whenever you're bored instead of jumping around on your ship.
The target console is nearby. If you trigger the alarms now, the enemy will start destroying data. It's gone. Stay focused. There's a heavy unit approaching. Nearing the console. Trigger the alarms now, and they will start destroying the data. Excellent work. A clean extraction with no alarms. We have everything we came for. Get to extraction. Mission complete. Excellent work, Tenno.
So here I'm completing one of the long-term goals, which is acquiring the Helminth segment. We won't be getting started on it right away, but it will be absolutely pivotal towards our endgame progression. Okay, so let's talk about kit guns. So all this time from the very beginning of the series I've been talking about a particular kit gun that I personally enjoy. There's a few reasons for that. It's because we can make it do critical chance quite easily. It has very high base damage, the status chance is quite low, but it's good enough for our purposes. It's quite easy to build around, and it's a very good pistol that you can acquire quite early on. As for the other parts of our kit gun, we'll be requiring Splat and Haymaker. and this of course being one of the reasons why we were ranking up with Solaris United. The other being that we can unlock the briefing room and the heist missions. Within the heist missions, there's two missions we're looking for. It is the heist second mission, which will allow us to farm the basic tauroids, and of course eventually the profit taker herself. One very long grind later and we finally have most of the materials we need. And now we have all of the materials we need. Let's build this amp. I don't have the necessary standing to gild it today, so I will be returning to that tomorrow. So here's how we're going to build this kit gun. First and foremost, you should solve your multi-shot. There is barrel diffusion and lethal torrent. Of course, eventually we'll be upgrading to galvanized diffusion. Then from there on we want to get our basic elemental mods in. There's two primary things that you want to concern yourself with, that is either armor stripping or increasing damage to base health. That being said, that's either viral or corrosive. After the fact, as the baseline mod, I highly recommend to run heat. Heat scales gradually and eventually becomes incredibly strong damage over time effect if you're continuously shooting at the enemy. In my case, I'm going for viral heat, which means I'll need to get corrosive from a different location, such as your sentinel of course. Beyond that, we have an incredibly high crit rate, so we're going to be using the creeping bullseye mod. We'll also eventually acquire the mod called Magnetic Might, which will also give us magnetic damage and allow this weapon to do more damage to overguarded enemies and shields. That mod of course also giving you crit damage. Now that we finally acquired the Necromech, it's time to do the new war quest, unlocking even more content.
We are seasons. All of us. Growing in the light. Fading in the dark. But once the same. Yet ever changed. Don't be afraid.
Attention crew, stand down. All stations. You'll be pleased to know that I, Alan V, have negotiated a peaceful and profitable transfer of power to our new
Fleet control. Firing sync re-engaged. Authorization: Corpus Tech First Class VSO-R. Take your shot. For profit.
And with the quest finally done, we now have the ability to access some of the more recent endgame content. So now the primary focus is going to be to unlock Steel Path, completing every single node on the map, doing the Zariman, Duviri, and the Sanctum Anatomica quests, and of course eventually the Hex. Also here in the background you can see that I'm trying to mod my Naturuk bow. This is going to be one of the key weapons to make our magnetized discharge build work and clear most of the game quite easily. And since this is a weapon that we got for free, this build is incredibly accessible. All you need is the magnetized discharge mod and some basic mods between corrupted mods and other more common mods. Okay, so let me explain the Helminth system. The way the Helminth works is that every single Warframe has a pre-designated ability that can be subsumed from them. You sacrifice a base, non-prime Warframe to unlock said ability for the Helminth. You then, for a material cost, can add it to any other Warframe and replace an already existing ability. That being said, some Warframes have such a perfect synergy between all of their abilities that you really don't want to be doing this. Though in vast majority of cases, Warframes do have that one outlier ability that doesn't fit into your playstyle and can be subsumed safely. There are a lot of useful abilities for the Helminth, and I will not be going into it at this point in time. I will simply make a short later on, so keep your eye out for that. So here's the final iteration of our Naturuk bow. Once again, I'm going to be focusing on viral heat, then we're going to be using critical delay to reach very high critical chance. If you are looking to add a Riven to this build, which I don't recommend at this point in time, however the plat costs for the Naturuk Rivens aren't too high, you're looking to replace the Vigilante Fervor mod, which gives you fire rate, with another Riven that also has fire rate but also critical chance. This will push us over the 200% breakpoint for critical chance, allowing us to score occasional red crits. And now I'll be doing the Jade Shadows quest to be able to participate in the tail end of the event that's currently going on and sneak in some arcanes from the event.
Your dreadlong life, you have lived with despair, anguish, hatred. But none of these compare to your guilt.
Alright, so with Jade Shadow completed, I can now participate in the alerts happening for the event. They appear once an hour, and I'm going to try to sneak in some arcanes and cosmetics from the event. The modes can be traded at Ordis, located on the Lorunda Relay, just so you know. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this episode. Feel free to like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.